I want to get you into everything. I know Nicolette is on the call today. We took about maybe a week or two break, but that's necessary to reaccumulate the thoughts, reaccumulate the mind, reaccumulate, what direction you want to be leading the people in. Because if you don't know where you're going, it's very hard for you to guide somebody else on where they're going. So it's definitely needed. We're definitely glad to be back on today's call again. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass the call to Nicolette. She's gonna take things over. Let's get it.
Peace. So today I wanted to talk about the universal laws because CJ talked about it on the guys' calls, but I want to just throw in my perspective of them. And yeah, I have a PowerPoint to share. So, okay. So I really wanted to talk about today just love because a lot of people when we talk about unity consciousness and like being at peace and all these things, a lot of people don't really understand in the beginning like what really is the path of spirituality and being able to grow and accept these things. So love is really like the base energy of everything in all existence is how I could really explain it. And basically the 12 universal laws are from this one divine energy that really just controls everything in existence and non-existence, like what cannot be seen as well. So yeah, love is an elevation of understanding. When you have an understanding, you are no longer in the state of confusion, which brings peace. Peace is satisfaction from your knowledge and wisdom applied. And as a result, you become happy. So how can we become happy? When we understand the universal laws and how everything plays into each other, we can quite literally create a reality where we are at this bliss, this happiness, this peace. And even when bad things happen to us, we still send love to that because we understand. So the first law is the law of divine oneness. So the law of divine oneness is really how everything is one. Unity consciousness is understanding your connection with all. So I just have some pictures right here to show you basically some examples of how we are all one. This is an illustrated guide to a spiritual awakening, but quite literally everything is God if you really think about it. We are all coming from one source that so many people call so many different names. Some call it God, some call it Jah, some call it Jehovah. The list can go on, but it's one divine source that we all stem from. And nobody's denying the fact that there's one divine source that we all come from. Every belief system has that understanding that that's the case. And even like people that don't believe in anything, they also understand that everything is energy if you're going to talk from a scientific standpoint. So I have this Bible quote, which is, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So how I would break that down is, well, at first I see this as an allegory, which is a type of speech. So words are vibrations. Vibrations is energy, and everything is energy, which is one source. And the law of divine oneness is also, for an example of that, is living in fractals. So like quite literally, everything stems from this one source, but it manifests very similar. What makes us different from a tree? I say that because, for example, a tree has children just like us. They have seeds. They have the physical aspect of them, which is rooted in the ground, but also I would call the spiritual aspect of them, which is touching towards the sky or the heavens. And this is no different from a human being. If we think about it, we are like trees for every other being. So this is how I would describe fractals, just being able to see an object whose parts are infinitely many levels of magnification to appear geometrically similar to the whole. So everything is sacred geometry. Quite literally, every shape is geometry in this existence. And geometry is really important to understand, because when you understand how things manifest, you can also learn how to manipulate it. And that I would talk about that further in these calls, like when I get further into understanding energy and stuff like that, because manipulating energy, you can do it in so many ways with thoughts, but then some people take it to the next level and they do other things. So the law of vibration is a spectrum of energy. A spectrum is a noun, which is a continuum of color formed. Hold on, let me move this. When a beam of white light is dispersed as by passage through a prism. So that is, hold on, component wavelengths are arranged in order, or any of various continua that resemble a color spectrum is consisting of an ordered arrangement by particular characteristics, such as frequency or energy, such as electromagnetic spectrums, radio spectrums, the range of frequencies of sound waves, and mass spectrum, which is a continuous sequence of or range. So basically, the law of vibration, like I was talking about earlier, was basically the creation of everything. But what is really everything when we think about it? Well, everything is light. In order for us to perceive it, it has to be on the spectrum of light. If not, we cannot see it. And this goes for physical things as well. So a physical thing, quite literally, is just atoms stacked upon each other, which is light energy. And it wouldn't exist. We couldn't even perceive it if we didn't have that light. So it's just understanding how these things manifest. And some light we can't even see. And when you get deeper into spirituality, there'll be a point where you can start seeing energies radiate off of people and things. So it gets to the point where you can actually see higher levels of the light spectrum because you're more in tune with the energy that is creating you and around you and within you. And I also put the atom right here just to show you, basically this is the creation of everything, the negative, the positive, and the neutral energy that creates everything. So the law of correspondence. How I break the law of correspondence down is as above, so below, as within, so without. Life is an echo. What you send out comes back. What you sow, you reap. What you give, you get. What you see in others exists in you. Do not judge, so you will not be judged. Radiate and give love, and love will come back to you. It's understanding that quite literally, life is cause and effect. And because of the law of correspondence or the law of attraction, quite literally, what you're putting out will come back to you, because we understand that everything is energy and now everything's operating on a level of frequency. So there's quite literally different sections of frequency and certain categories where certain things will happen to you if you're remaining in a certain level of frequency. And I refer back to all the time, but the level of consciousness chart, which I have one here and I'll show to really break that down. But the law of attraction is, this is the resonance of vibration. So to resonate is a verb, to relate harmoniously. In order, you have to believe it, therefore be it. Resonate is also to be in alignment. That's another synonym for resonate. So I have here, I don't trust words, I even question actions, but I never doubt patterns. The law of attraction, you'll be able to see what level you are operating on this scale right here, which is a scale of emotions with different energies, based on the patterns that you're seeing going on in your life. So if you're operating in a state of fear, you're going to see things that are going to show you why you need to be fearful, because you're attracting that energy, because that's what you're putting your focus to. So it's understanding where you put your mind to, what you put your focus to, will attract your reality. That's why I say, in order for you to see it, you have to believe it, therefore be it. So the law of inspired action. A lot of people are just animals with intellect. It is only when one becomes humane, they are human. Humane is an adjective marked by compassion, sympathy, or consideration for humans or animals. A human is an adjective which means being, relating to, or belonging to a person or to people as opposed to animals. To have humanity or to be human is to understand and practice love. So, what I mean by that is when you understand how connected you truly are to everything relative to your existence, this is what it is to truly be a human. Because a lot of people nowadays, we act and don't think about the consequences and how it can affect the next person, and not even just the next person, but the entire planet, quite literally. Because if we really understand how we are so connected, we wouldn't do half of the things that we do. So, like, for example, if somebody does you dirty, you don't have to do them dirty back. Or if somebody pissed you off, you don't have to stay in that mood and therefore piss other people off because of that person making you mad and ruining your day. Because if you understood how much you truly affect everything else, which is to be humane, which is to have compassion and sympathy and consideration for other things, you wouldn't do those things, which is also known as love. Because in order for you to love, you have to understand. So kindness is not an act, it is a reflection of your soul. And here I have the flower of life. And the flower of life is a sacred geometry pattern that really shows how we are all connected. It's the base, they call it the base shape of everything in existence. You can get literally every shape from this thing right here. And in the middle, in a smaller part, it's also known as the seed of life because it's a smaller size of it, but it still makes up the giant flower of life. So it's just showing like fractals basically. And you can see like how it repeats itself and it continues to repeat itself. But this is truly what we are as an existence from the one source. We are literally this one energy that manifests its way in so many diverse ways, but it's still one source. So the law of perpetual transmutation of energy. The law of perpetual transmutation of energy is as energy, we all have the power to change any condition in our lives. Producing a higher vibration consumes and transforms lower ones. This means we can change the energies in our lives by understanding the universal laws and applying their principles that will produce change. So the map of consciousness, this is a different one I have, but it's a little more clear, I feel like. So, for example, if we're in a state of guilt, that's blame, that's self-blame or blame of others. And that view of life is everything is evil around you. People are evil, just everything is evil. But in order for you to get out of that, you now have to transmute that energy and destroy to now build a new type of perspective. But how do we do that? So we do that through meditation. We do that by unplugging ourselves from the programming that we've been taught. Everything is evil, everything's out to get us. People can't be trusted because that's all we're focusing on. That's all we will attract. And having that understanding, we understand, okay, well, if that's the case right now, that's what I've been programmed to understand. I must first go into solitude, find out what I truly want in life by listening to my soul, and now building that reality by putting my focus to the things that I truly want and knowing that because I've put my focus towards it, it will manifest because it's the law of attraction. And I transmuted my thoughts into a different frequency, a different reality. So meditation is so important. I will never stop meditating. I suggest that even when you think that you know something, continue to always question and continue to always meditate and do that shadow work, because the wise man knows that he truly knows nothing. And we're continuously evolving. So that was the 6 laws. I'm gonna go over the next 6 next week. But I just really want to break that down for you guys. And if you have any questions, let me know in the chat, or you can even unmute yourself if you'd like. Yep, everything at its core has this pattern. Let me make sure you guys can unmute. Hold on.
Yo, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. This is Amari. I just wanted to ask a quick question. When you were talking about law of perpetual energy, and you were talking about going into solitude and listening to your soul and find what you truly love. Can you break down how to listen to your soul?
Of course. So when it comes down to soul searching, a lot of people call it shadow work. There's so many different names you could call it, but how I personally have gone through it and how many of others have gone through it is basically meditation is the first part of it. First, you have to learn to sit with yourself. And when you sit with yourself, this means not having your phone near you, no distractions, no people, and first learning to hear your inner voice. Whatever thoughts that are flowing through, it doesn't matter negative, positive, just whatever is flowing through you. And then understand that you are not those thoughts, but analyze them. Just observe. See how those thoughts have maybe played out in your life. That belief system has maybe played out in your life, and see if that's what really makes you feel happy or at peace. And then from there, I would say, when you're questioning these things, to remain in an open mind state and also put the intention of gaining this knowledge, gaining this connection to yourself for the greater good of yourself and the greater good of all. Because when we set an intention, anything that you do with intention is going to attract, because we understand the law of attraction, and manifest that reality. So when you put that intention in the beginning of your meditation, you are now creating that space where those thoughts that truly do align with your true self can flow to you, because you put that focus towards it. Let me check the chat. If there's any other questions, let me know. And if that answered your question, or you have any a deeper part of that question, let me know.
Nah, that was perfect. I'm just trying to write down all the shit you said right now.
I mean, I think CJ drops the calls on YouTube as well. So if you feel like you missed anything, there's always that to look back at.
All right, but I'm gonna definitely get the YouTube link from.
Okay, cool. And I also just want to talk about like how, if you notice, these laws literally, like, to me, I feel like they're all the same kind of, like, when you understand, it's like they flow into each other. It's like they're not really different, but they kind of are. But this is what I was explaining, like how, like, source is one source, but it diversely manifests itself. And you can tell, like, it's just like these set laws cannot be changed. So like these things are going to happen in a pattern. Even the unknown, even the chaos is divinely created, because it causes the change maybe that we needed. It caused the growth that we needed, because, for example, the chaos in our lives where we're just like, damn, things are just beating me up right now. It's like, okay, well, if you can recognize things are going on, or things aren't really quite towards your liking, you understand, like, maybe if you have that understanding, like, maybe you would like want to change it, like cause that that spark to do something different. So maybe you can have a different reality, no? So the chaos is also very beautiful. Why is it that I don't judge other people and can fully accept people for who they are, but I still have a fear of judgment from other people? Okay, well, I can see that to be one, you're kind of separating yourself from understanding that you are no different from those other people. And how I'd break that down is, okay, for example, like you said, you don't judge other people. You're like, cool, they do them, right? But then it's kind of like you don't care about what people think, but you care so much about what you think that essentially it's not that you care about like what other people think and their judgment, but more so you're like afraid of not fulfilling what you want, like what you really feel like you could do, and that is being projected as if the other people are like, you feel like other people are judging you for what you do. But it all starts with self. Anytime you feel like something is reflecting you, something is judging you, something is looking at you from the outside in, you have to understand everything comes from self first. So if you feel like somebody's judging you, you're judging yourself. Because quite literally, you could have a conversation with that person and they might not be judging you. Or if they are judging you, understand you put your focus to that judgment of yourself and therefore attracted somebody on the same vibration to reflect you in that judgment because you're focusing so much on it. That's what I noticed because I used to go through that as well. Like I used to kind of like, I didn't care what other people do. Like whatever they do is that's you. But okay, when it came down to me, I'm like, I was kind of scared to express myself. But I really felt like other people were judging me too when I felt that way. But then I realized like a lot of people, when I would talk to them later on maybe, or like even in the moment and I questioned it, because I wanted to know, half of the time they weren't even thinking about that, or if they were, it was like, nah, I seen that like you started moving awkward. But then I realized the only time I started moving awkward was when I started judging myself. Because I was flowing before that. Then I was like, damn, are people looking at me and all of a sudden I'm stiff? Or damn, all of a sudden I can't speak.
Can I add on to that too?
Mhm.
I saw something earlier. It was talking about inner child wounds. And that was one of them that I read. I'm trying to pull and see if I saved it real quick just to read what I had saw, but that might be an inner child wound. Feeling judged by other people and hearing, because I'm gonna be honest, that's something that I have struggled with at different points too. Like I don't judge anyone at all. I don't judge other people, but I'm highly, highly, highly judgmental of myself to the point where I feel like I'm hearing it, like somebody else's voice in my head judging me, like literally, but it's myself. And I know it is because that's something that, you know, there was a lot of judgment around me as a small child. So, but I'm about to try to find the post
Yeah.
real quick.
Take your time. And I definitely agree. Honestly, it is an inner child wound because I'll break it down like this. We grow up in school and we're being judged from the start. We're literally being judged for grades. And if we don't do good enough and we fail, we have to do a grade over again. So now you're put in this state of, am I good enough? Is my work good enough? And I mean, also from your parents, maybe, or siblings, or even friends. You know, like these things can actually really affect us. And the older we get and we don't like actually challenge these thoughts and stuff like that, like it just starts to manifest and we see like how it reflects in our reality.
Yeah. So the type of trauma that it's called is rejection trauma. And then you easily make negative assumptions about what others are thinking. You worry about letting people in. You find compromising difficult, and you're a people pleaser. it said like ways to help that. You can meditate on these affirmations. Positive energy nourishes my body and helps me radiate joy to others. A happy, joyful life is being created for me right now. And then just another one that might resonate potentially, injustice trauma, which the symptoms of that are chronic chest and back pain, feeling fatigued or drained, unpredictable and irrational emotions, and disorientation and short attention span. And the affirmations for that one are, I deserve to feel safe, comfortable, and confident in this body. I accept myself the way I am. My body is perfect the way it is.
I love that. So yeah, honestly, like those are some things, so some questions you can ask during your shadow work when you're meditating. Like I said, reflecting on the things you've experienced and now telling yourself, okay, what can I change about this? And now you can tell yourself an affirmation because you're putting a thought now. You're putting those thoughts together and you're focusing on it. So now you can actually start trying to feel it, embody it, and just see it in your reality. Behavior cards and grades, we've been getting judged since pre-K. Exactly. Behavior cards. If you went what was it, like the red zone, the yellow zone, the green zone. So if he was in the green zone, he was cool and like, yeah, you could do your thing, whatever. But if he was in the red zone, your mom probably gonna get a call, something, like, you never know. And in terms of I think it was Ari, right? That you were talking about the affirmations.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, can you repeat the second part of it? Like because I wanted to actually touch upon that.
The injustice trauma.
Okay, thank you. That part. The injustice trauma. So
Okay.
yeah, you can go.
Did you want me to reread it? That's all I was wondering.
Oh, you can you just read the description again, like how people can like act out?
The symptoms of it or the affirmations?
Oh, the symptoms, please.
Okay, so the symptoms for that are chronic chest and or back pain, feeling fatigued or drained, unpredictable and irrational emotions, disorientation, and short attention span.
Thank you. So in terms of the physical feelings of that trauma, how I would break that down is quite literally, if we understand that everything is energy, energy is flowing through our body all the time. When we eat, it's going down, things are going up, blood, air, so on. And when you're holding on to a specific type of trauma, it manifests not only in your reality, but also in your body. So sometimes people have heart pain, and that's some trauma from their heart chakra, and so on. When people are stressed, they usually get tense shoulders. They feel like the world is on their shoulders. But this is quite literally when you're stressed, you're tense, you're like kind of like going in close on yourself, and therefore your shoulders are like stuck in that position. And it's just seeing how basically this trauma can quite literally manifest in our body. So it's just understanding, like, when you do have these traumas, you can do movement to also help and get acupuncture, you can massage yourself, you can stretch. All these things can help you release this energy. Yoga, exactly, hatha yoga, to help release this energy alongside with the shadow work of the mental side, because it's good to do the mental, it's good to do the physical, but doing both together is the best combination, because it really quite literally cleanses your body. And also I would recommend cleaning up your diet as well, because when you clean up your diet, the energy can flow better in your body. There's no chemicals, there's no things limiting you from your body producing this, doing this. Everything plays into each other, like the 12 laws of the universe. They all play into each other. It's all parts of a machine. And we have to understand paying attention to detail is very important, because all these parts, all these little screws in the machine matter. Every single screw. every single block of a foundation matters. So it doesn't matter how little or how big, they all matter. Yes, so many people just meditate. I mean, there's a time and place for certain things. Sometimes, you know, there's meditation where you're just like basking in reality, enjoying everything around you, just looking at the birds fly, the trees, the, you know, the water, whatever it is, the sky, the clouds, the sun, the moon. And that's a different type of meditation. And I would call it like a gratitude type of meditation, because you're observing everything around you, and oftentimes I feel gratitude when I do that. But there's also types of meditation where intention based, where it's shadow work. So now you set the intention and you're going deep into yourself and looking for that answer of that, for that intention. Gotta explore your body and what you like, what you don't, with an open mind, no fear of judgment. Learn how different yoga poses alters your energy and heals your body. Exactly. Because also another thing too, like when you start this journey of going deep within, it could be scary. Some things you might not want to revisit. Some trauma is painful sometimes, especially if you haven't revisited it in a while. And sometimes people also like relive their trauma day to day, like every single day, just like thinking about it. And there's a limit to things, right? Balance is the key, because overindulgence in anything is never good for us. It doesn't matter even if it's healthy. Too much of one thing will never be good. So what I would say to that is like being able to like do your shadow work, but not get stuck in it is very important, because it's like, okay, I came to this conclusion. I understood this is what happened to me. I understood how this made me feel. Now, how do I move on from this? How do I build from this? How do I become stronger from this? And then you go and you understand, yes, that may have happened to me, but I don't let it control my reality. I don't let it control how I feel, how I think, how I act. And I make me stronger. Because I look at it like this: any type of trauma, it had maybe, yeah, it made us weak in that moment. And until we dealt with it weak. But like a workout, you feel weak, you beat yourself up, you just did however many reps of something, you ran this much, you feel weak. But then the next time you go back at it, you're strong again. You're stronger, actually. Are there any other questions? What's your thoughts on finding people who don't care about being judged? Obviously, they gotta be spiritual in tune, but none obnoxious about it, if that makes sense. From my experience, they will show you what the paradigm feels like. It'll naturally free you. I can explain. So, in order to find people who don't care about being judged, I would say you would have to first start embodying it. Because like I said, the more you focus on not judging yourself, the more you're going to see that pop up in your reality. And even in the beginning, like it might be maybe hard, because like it's a habit that you're breaking, quite literally. And it's a new way of existing. It's a new way of life. It's a new way of thinking. But trusting the knowledge that you have and understanding the laws of the universe will allow you to create that reality of being surrounded by people like that you want in your life. Because with knowledge comes wisdom. And with wisdom, there's no longer a state of confusion, which brings you peace. So now if you do see somebody that is reflecting your old self, or you're trying to revisit some old connections that you may have had and they were reflecting your old self, you can now see quite literally how that type of thinking is being manifested. Yeah, you can add, you can speak.
I just had one thing to say, and it kind of has to touch up on the part about like traumas and whatnot. Because as a child, you haven't developed that emotional body armor, or armor is what I would call it. So just one thing to add in there, I feel like if you are someone that's dealing with those kind of things, because I was at one point, I just realized that I had to develop that emotional body armor to where not being like sensitive, but there's a big difference between sensitive and compassionate. You know what I mean? Like, or empathy. So sensitive as in the sense of like, let's say you get joked a lot, or you get picked on or whatever, and those things manifest themselves and your insecurities later. You have to develop that emotional body armor, so that way when you do see those like negative vibrational people and they try to dump those negative vibrations on you, that emotional body armor that you've developed, it's really your thoughts, really is what it is. But that'll kick in, and you'll think, okay, I see what's going on here. This is this person is a trauma dumper. You know what I mean? They like to dump their trauma on other people. This person is a gossiper. And it's like, how people can say things that get to you. It's like, that's what I mean about the emotional body armor. But that's pretty much all.
I agree. Honestly, like once you start seeing how people are treating you a lot, like you can actually, once you like get out of that paradigm, you see how they're quite literally projecting onto you. I used to tell like everybody that I knew, or like little kids, when I see somebody being mean to them, I'd be like, yo, they're only being mean to you because they're insecure and they're projecting their insecurities on you. Because we have to understand, why do people think the way they do? And this is psychology, but when you understand that people are quite literally patterns of thoughts manifesting into their reality, you understand, okay, so they're talking to me this way, they might be dumping on me their thoughts like this way, but that's their internal dialogue. And they might put up a front and they might show you something else, but you deep down, you understand, in order for that to manifest on the outside, that's coming from the inside. And that has nothing to do with you. So this is how I've been able to not be so affected by external things, because I've become so rooted in my knowledge of who I am that anybody could come up to me and they could say whatever. And I'll just be like, okay, that's cool. That's your perception. But I know who I am deep down within. And those people don't even know themselves, because if they knew themselves and if they knew what they were doing, they would never do it. So I kind of look at those types of people with empathy and sympathy, because it's like they don't truly understand. And this is why I said it's like humans are kind of like, I would say like people are kind of like just walking around, just like almost as acting as if animals, like they were animals, not having the understanding of humanity, what it is to be a human, to be humane, to have compassion for others. But that's all because they don't have compassion for themselves. They don't have that internal dialogue for themselves, and they might try to fake it and act like it, but like we said, patterns reveal the truth. For me, just a simple thought of me living in a reality where I don't care, people started to pop up that were extremely free. So I would really say the most important step is the thought of submitting to a life of being free, if that makes sense. Yeah, if that's what your soul is telling you, like if that's what your soul is guiding you to, you're choosing to resonate with that and align with that, and therefore your reality reflects that. So I want to kind of come back to this right here. Oftentimes when we see like in spirituality, like ascended masters, or what you would call like enlightened beings in the practice, they quite literally transcended all these lower vibrations, all these lower feelings, to get to this point. And that came with discipline. So another thing too I want to like really talk about is discipline, because it's good to put down a block, because every block matters, every screw matters on the foundation of the machine. But when you're not consistent on it, it's easy for old patterns to come back and take over. So like in terms of like that armor, that emotional armor that we were talking about, it's really, it takes that consistency and that discipline to be, in order for you to be even rooted in that knowledge, because you're fighting things on the day-to-day basis when you're first trying to change your reality, because you're now focusing on trying to get out of a certain level of frequency, whether that's pride, fear, anger, courage, etc. You're going to be faced with things that reflected your old self in the beginning to see if that's truly what you choose. Is this the new reality that you truly want? Or are you going to go back to old patterns? But like I said, discipline when you work out, you have to be disciplined in order for you to retain that muscle. So it's no different when you work out your mind. You have to be disciplined. And I look at it this way: would you rather be disciplined in putting the work to better yourself, or discipline in that aspect of being lazy and not doing anything for yourself or trying to grow or evolve? Because that's a form of discipline if you really think about it. Not doing anything every single day, going about life, the same thought patterns every single day, that's a form of discipline. It's just in the opposite frequency right here, like the opposite wavelength, the spectrum. Talk about spectrum, that's the same thing as the level of consciousness. And here, when it comes down to energy, quite literally, thoughts vibrate at different frequencies. So the slower the frequency, the lower the vibration. Therefore, these thoughts right here are going to lower your vibration physically, quite literally, because your thoughts are always being protruded outside. If you understand, like we said, the law of correspondence, how things reflect from the inside to the outside, you're going to attract things slower with lower vibrational thoughts. You're going to see things, feel heavier on that lower vibration, that slower vibration of thinking. You were just talking about how things that manifest on the outside come from the inside. You said before that we are one source of energy that manifests itself in different ways. If fear, anger, or low vibration manifests itself, do you target that specific manifestation of anger, fear, etc., or do you target the source of both, of energy where it manifests, or both? Well, I would say in terms of what you focus on, and when it comes down to targeting that stuff, whether it comes down to anger, fear, etc., I would say take on as much as you can in that moment. Because another thing too, it's okay to like focus on one thing or focus on all if you choose. Everything is what you choose. It's okay for you to not want to do that in that one session of meditation, for example. You can break it up where it's like, okay, I had this bad week. There was so much fear, anger in my week, right? And then you're like, okay, well, you know what? Today, I'm really going to focus on the source of what brought that anger. I'm going to focus on the source of what brought that fear the next day, tomorrow, or maybe a little bit later. What you want to do, honestly, because I feel like spirituality should be free, like in terms of how you approach it. It's all about you, what you want to put in, how much work you want to put in, how much you want to reflect in that moment. The choice is yours. For me, I'm going to try to do as much as I can possibly to reflect in that moment of all things, because I want to see how those things played out and maybe how they played into each other. Because for me, I feel like, first of all, when it comes down to anger, I feel like it manifests from fear. And because when it comes down to like understanding what these emotions are, there's always like a source, like a root, a seed under that. So like it's quite literally in order of lust, pain, victimization, suffering, shame, guilt, fear. Lust isn't always sexual, in my opinion. Lust can be wanting to feed into something that doesn't serve your higher self, and knowing that it's wrong for you, but still choosing to do that. And I feel like they just all play into each other. Yeah, you can say something.
As far as the question went, the one guy, I just had something to say pretty much about that. He said, you said before that we are one source of energy, but or that manifests itself in different ways. If fear, anger, or low vibrations manifests itself, do you target that specific manifestation of anger, fear, etc., or do you target the source of energy where it manifests, or both? And so I just had something I wanted to drop in there. I don't. You can consider this what you want, but I don't know like how many people in the chat or whatnot, how far you are in your spiritual journey, or like if you ever been somewhere like of extreme poverty. But I myself, I've lived in the hood a couple times. You know what I mean? And I don't know if anyone else has been through that, but if you have, I guarantee you, and this is something I've tested with like all of my family before, like, and they didn't even know I was like testing them with this, but I've noticed that like if you go to areas that are just like really bad areas, you know what I mean? Literally, as soon as you start to get close to it, it's almost like you can feel the negativity in the air, and you can feel like it's almost like the air thickens a little bit. And then the closer to you that you get to certain places, it's like it just gets stronger and stronger. It's like almost easier to feel yourself getting, angry or just in a negative vibrational attitude. And I just know for myself, like when I used to live, in the hood, when I did live out there, it was like I lived in an apartment building. And so I feel like that's one of the most detrimental things you could ever do is live in the hood and be in an apartment building, because you're literally surrounded by so many other people and you don't know what the fuck those people have going on. Because like literally, like, I remember it was one time like I was just chilling, playing video games or whatever at my, at my desk and whatnot. And I was just like super irritable. Like nobody else was home. And I was just pissed off and I couldn't tell what was pissing me off. And then I go and look out my like my window shades from my front door, and I see my neighbor outside on his phone, like leaned up against one of the posts, like one of the support posts. And this nigga is watching porn on his phone. And I was like, what the fuck? And so obviously I said something to him about it, but it was like I could literally feel that something wasn't right. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I just wanted to chime in about that. As you were saying, do you target the specific source or whatnot? I would say, bro, you just got to make sure that you are on your spiritual team, because if you're not, it's going to be hella easy for you to be influenced by what other people have going on around you, especially if it's your family.
Oh, can I like piggyback off that too? So this is why I feel like it's really important to have like crystals and to have like, as Nicolette was saying, to do meditation and things like that as well. Because you really can have things attaching to you and you can have things surrounding you, as Darian said, and you won't really know it. But as long as you're doing what you need to do, aside from things in your past, like don't ever let, if you have, what was it? Anger or fear or things like that, if it was in like your younger self or just any time in the past, don't let that hold to you now. Like don't let yourself get in a thought pattern of that, because as long as you're doing what you need to do, you'll be okay. And if you ever feel like you are like something like that is manifesting on you, like anger, fear, doubt, things like that, go outside, you know, stand in the grass barefoot. Honestly, like go stand in the sun. As soon as you start feeling like that, go outside and you will feel so much better. Go outside, hug a tree, take a deep breath, and you will feel a lot better. And you will be able to reconnect to source directly and reconnect to the circadian rhythm. Because a lot of times being inside, not getting oxygen in our eyes, just so many different things, it'll make you feel like that. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
I 100% agree with the both of you guys because honestly, like when it comes down to like areas, especially like the hood, these people are doing the same pattern. They're on the same frequency. So therefore they're in the same area, reflecting each other. So it might be hard for you to even hear your own thoughts because you're in an energy place, a source of energy right there. It's like an energy portal basically because everybody's maintaining that frequency around you where you're like almost trapped in that frequency. So like Ari said, like going outside with nature is the best thing. If you need to get out of that environment and you're like in the hood, try to go to a park. There's got to be some square of grass near you for you to try to connect back with source.
My fault. I was just gonna piggyback on what you were saying, but if you don't have like somewhere you can immediately go to, get like a snake plant or something, you know, because those not only do they filter the air during the daytime, they also don't put out carbon dioxide at nighttime. So you're going to be consistently getting clean air, and it's a positive energy source for you to go to. Like just go over there and touch your plant. Honestly, touch your plant. Might even just stick your finger in the pot, you know, like it really makes a huge difference. And if you allow yourself to be intentional with the release of energy, then the plant will take it for you and it will directly transmute it for you. So yeah, I definitely recommend getting a plant or something like that too, if you don't have access to going outside.
I definitely agree. And this is like we were saying, crystals, plants, nature is going to heal you. It comes from source and it hasn't been affected by these other thoughts because it's quite literally maintaining that frequency in order for it to manifest the way it is. So a crystal, for example, people always ask me, oh, how do crystals work? I don't believe in crystals or something like that, right? A crystal is maintaining a vibration, a frequency to hold this structure. So understanding that certain colors quite literally affect us. Certain colors make us feel a different way. Certain colors tap into different energies, into different chakras within ourselves. Certain, it's not even always color things. Sometimes it's certain like densities, certain things that it reflects. Like everything really, really does play into each other. So like when you're seeing things that maintain a specific vibration, a specific frequency pattern, understand that those things can help you heal. If like we were talking about the plants, the crystals, because they're maintaining that source pattern, that pattern of source. And also in terms of like living in the hood and in apartments, like I was saying, energy is maintained by people. So if they're above you or below you, around you, understand they're in alignment for a reason. So if you don't like the way those people are acting, pay attention to what they're doing that you don't like, because sometimes people, they can't see it within themselves, but somebody could just irk them. They don't even know why at first. They'll just be like, oh, I don't like how that person acts. But the fact that it bothers them so much is actually a reflection, something within them. It's reflecting something within themselves. Because if you understood, okay, that has nothing to do with you and you're not on that frequency, it wouldn't bother you as much.
Hey, excuse me. Your name's Nicolette, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just have one last thing about that. A part of the reason that is so detrimental to live in an apartment building is because if you like look into like geometry and whatnot, squares contain energy, circles recycle energy, and triangles amplify it. So pretty much if you're living in a building with a bunch of other people, all of the energy from those people is being contained. And not only that, you're experiencing that energy. But if you look at it, it's pretty much a prison. That's what I mean. A house is a prison in general. It's just a comfortable one. But an apartment building is literally a comfortable prison, yes, but it's more detrimental to yourself because there's so many other energies around you that are all being held in the same place. And there's not really an escape for that. Because even if you do, your meditation, you're on your spiritual deem, you burn incense, sage and whatnot, Palo Santo, and have your crystals, it's like it's good and that's also gonna help. But you still have to look at it. You're still a part of that larger square, and all squares do is contain energy. So all the good, bad, neutral, whatever, and not only to mention that, but you got to look at what other demons people carry with them, and whether, think about it. Somebody's grandma might have passed away. Now their grandma looks over them. And so you wake up in the middle of the night and you just feel like there's something around, you know what I mean? But you don't know what it is. Or such and such used to be, promiscuous, and they got a bunch of incubus, succubus energy around them. You know what I mean? And now it's like you're around these things. So it's literally the same thing as being put in prison or in jail, because now you're around these people. And even though it's not a direct connection to them, that energy is still there, and energy is free floating. It carries through anything. And just to prove that, I mean, look at sound. Sound goes through walls and everything. There's nothing that can stop energy flow except for shapes. But yeah.
I definitely agree. Shapes are important. This is why I encourage you guys to learn about sacred geometry, like I mentioned earlier, because sacred geometry is the embodiment of everything that exists. So when you understand how certain shapes manifest and how they actually affect frequencies and everything around you, it helps you create better, helps you understand better, helps you just live better. And in terms of learning how to protect yourself, this is something else I wanted to mention. When it comes down to like starting to get in tune with yourself, starting to get a deeper connection to your soul, deeper connection to energy, observing all these things, it's really important that in the beginning that you make an intentional space for you to like release that energy that you did observe, because sometimes like people observe but they also absorb as well. So like, for example, personally, I don't listen to lower vibrational music. I don't listen to, like, I think Amari said that the hood has death culture, but the music in itself is death culture as well, and it's played all over the place. And so I don't listen to certain things that do not feed my soul, do not feed my thoughts in a positive manner, because I understand that if I keep listening to that, I'm going to start focusing on that. And also spiritual baths are really important, because if you're living in the hood, like you said, there might be, like, for example, you might even go into a house. It doesn't even matter the hood. You might go into a house, like you said, there might be an energy of somebody else that may have passed away that is left there because, for example, somebody didn't clean the energy, because they don't know how to, maybe, but that energy is still there. So you're being more in tune with all this energy, all these things, and you can quite literally feel that deceased person, or like in an apartment, you can feel the other people's demons.
Can I ask you a question too?
Mhm.
How would you go about cleaning the energy in a space specifically for that, for like a passing or something like that?
So personally, what I like to do when it comes down to cleaning any type of heavy energy, like a spirit or anything like that, I go straight to using incense and also candles with intention. So first, I would burn incense like copal, sage, more like copal and palo santo, because those are like stronger things that cleanse the energy of just like the whole space. And when I do those things, when I do burn those things, I have the intention of cleaning this energy. Anything that, like, if I can tell exactly what it is, I'm going to call it out, and I'm gonna be like, I'm cleaning this away from my space.
Okay.
And then on top of that, I'm going to put a candle, and I'll put a white candle. For example, white means purity. So I'll put a white candle for purification. I could put some herbs in there with intention of what I know the herbs to be. and I say a prayer over that, and I'll pray over that candle, maybe for 7 days, for example. Whatever I'm feeling, depending on how strong I feel like the connection of that is, and I'll just continue to just send that energy away. And sometimes, like personally, because I used to go through this too, like I might have an old ego, I feel like lingering in a room or something like that. I just got over that. And like, because we understand that people are like patterns. So sometimes they might go to an old place, an old house, an old space, something that they knew and they used to act this way. And all of a sudden they feel old patterns coming on. If I can, I'm gonna cleanse that space because I understand like, okay, this is lingering here. So you can do it with like anything really. I always cleanse my room, the house. I always cleanse. I'm always cleaning the energy because I understand I'm always evolving. Bakur. Smells good to me. It's very strong and I open. Oh, that's another thing. Thank you for saying that because when it comes down to cleansing also the energy, the air, we're living in a box, right? And it contains energy. So opening the doors and the windows is so important because now you're quite literally sending that energy out into the outside. You're letting it release quite literally because that's the only way you can really do it, you know? So opening the door and the windows is super important when it comes to cleaning the energy of the space because it's got to get out one way or the other. Playing 963 hertz helps too. Yeah, so playing frequencies, sound bowls, and frequencies, flutes, certain instruments. I listen to jazz sometimes. I listen to old school music like 70s music. I listen to some hip hop, like conscious hip hop, rap.
Hey, could I say something real quick? I know I keep interrupting you. I'm sorry, but you're just bringing up a lot of things that make me go like, ding. Oh yeah, I remember this.
It's all good.
With the sound bowls, they definitely work because I had to go on a little hiatus on this little camping trip not too long ago just to get back in nature and get right with myself and whatnot. And I had brought a sound bowl with me, and literally there was these two dudes. I was meditating, and literally I had just got to that space where it was like, I'm not asleep, I'm still like awake, but like I'm like in between, if that makes sense. Like I not just in between sleep and awake, but like in between consciousness almost. Like I it if you've been to it before. It's like, the area you get to right before you go to sleep, where it's like you're kind of like on the border of like dimensions almost. And I had just got to that point. And these two dudes came and then they just were watching some random, I don't even know what it was, something on Instagram, but they had the loudest and most obnoxious laughs you have ever heard. Like literally the dude sounded like Peter Griffin when he was laughing. And I'm just like, bruh, it like completely threw me out of my meditation and everything. And then they stayed there for like probably 30, 45 minutes. And like, I'd say around the last 10 to 15 minutes that they were there, I was like, you know what? I was like, because I could hear them just talking about like just a bunch of negative stuff like court and things like that they were laughing at other people's misery. So I just started dinging the hell out of my sound bowl, not like obnoxiously, but just like I would ring it, let the sound go out and let the vibrations die down, and then ring it again. And I did it straight for probably about 10 minutes. And like I said, they were there for 40 minutes prior, and once I started doing that, they left. And so you can look at that how you want to. Maybe it was annoying them, but I mean, things like that would annoy a low vibrational person because high vibrations, if you're a low vibrational person, you don't want to be around high vibrations. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it does sound kind of childish and like, but at the same time, it actually works if you think about it. And it's the same with spirits and stuff like that, like low vibrational entities in your house that you can't physically see will be affected the same way by those things. They won't want to be around it. So, there's my little 2-piece on that.
Yeah, I agree. So like cleansing that space, inviting that higher frequency. It can be sound, it can be thought, but just inviting that higher frequency to counteract those negative frequencies is really important, because when you do encounter those lower vibrations, understand those are energy vampires. They're trying to get you off of that high vibration in any shape or form, or however it manifests. So being able to hit that vibration with an equally opposite thought frequency, you're able to now continue on your path, because it's a constant battle. It's me versus me. It'll always be me versus me. Yeah, it might be something outside, but it's still me versus me, because I control how I think. There's a saying, if somebody is angry and they try to get me angry, they try to give me the gift of anger, and I choose not to take that gift. Whose gift is it? It's their gift to keep, because I never accepted that gift. So it's just understanding, like, on this path, you will be challenged, but challenge is good. It's not bad. It just is. It creates a stronger version of yourself. So, yeah. Yep, the gift I didn't accept. You can also expand your aura. I was going to talk about that. You can also expand your aura to force any energy not on that level out of your space. This is something we can practice anywhere, really. Smaller stores is a good spot. Yep. So expanding your aura. A lot of people, like, in the beginning, they're like, how do I expand my aura? Well, I'll break it down like this. Because I actually used to practice this. And in the beginning, I would practice outside at night by myself. Yeah. But it's like being able to, say, for example, you start feeling this feeling of fear, anger, whatever it is, right? Overcome you or challenge you, maybe because there's other people reflecting that. Set your intention to focus on positive things that will counteract those thoughts. And then imagine that energy circling you like a bubble. And then imagine that that bubble's impenetrable. Like nothing can go through that. That thought bubble that's surrounding you is your aura. Your aura is radiating off of you, your entire body, no matter what. Because your thoughts, like I said, they're manifesting in reality because they're quite literally being reflected or being shot out from your body to this physical reality for it to even manifest. So when you start envisioning things like that, it takes practice in the beginning, but once you start to continue to practice and make sure that you stay strong in your belief, don't let that slight bit of doubt come in that something can penetrate that aura field. Because once you have that doubt, that focus is knocked off, and now it creates that space where something can sneak through that little hole that you created of doubt. I noticed a couple months ago.
Oh, I was gonna add to that too while you were talking about that. Something that I've been doing since I was younger, as far as that goes, you know, like the song "This Little Light of Mine, I'm Gonna Let It Shine." I literally imagine myself expanding my light out. Like when I'm in dreams, especially like dreaming, because you really got to be careful, you know what I'm saying? But when certain things come like close to me at all, I just shoot my light out. Like that's something my grandma told me to do when I was a kid. And it really, really helps. You can do that like in the physical as well. I do that when I see people like eyeing me or something, I'll just shoot my light out. And it's like they can't even turn to like look at me for real, you know? So that's something that definitely can help. And I feel like that's a good visual way to do it as well.
Oh, wait,
I love that.
I also wanted to chime in on that. Like when I was a child, I think like when I was like 10 or something like that, I used to be able to see what was ever in the radius of my aura, if that makes sense. So like literally, I remember there was times, and one place it will always happen for me was Walmart. So like I go to Walmart with my grandma, and I don't know if everyone remembers this. I don't know how old y'all are, but back when Walmart, like in the game section, they would actually have like the controllers and the TVs out so you could actually go and play the game yourself. You know what I mean? I don't know if y'all, ever experienced that, but literally I didn't understand that I was astral projecting, or maybe just having an out of body experience until I got older and realized what I used to do. But pretty much like I'd be over there in the game section. My grandma would be like, okay, you can go play games with your cousin or whatever. And she would go continue shopping, and she'd be like, just find me in the store, once y'all are done playing, because she's a slow shopper. So I literally be sitting there playing the game for like 30 minutes, 45 minutes sometimes. But literally, I was seeing what my grandmother and what other people were doing in the store. And I don't give a fuck if anybody calls me crazy, I know what I saw. And literally it was like almost like I was just flying around the store pretty much and just looking at what other people were doing. And it's like, but consciously or subconsciously, I'd be sitting there playing whatever game I was on. I'd be winning that shit too. But I was paying absolutely zero attention to the game. And so like whenever I'd be, I would come back into myself and I'd be like, okay, it's time to go now. And literally my grandmother, lie to you not, she will even tell you herself, it'd be right when she was done shopping and she was ready to go. And I will walk exactly to where she was at every single time. It's like I already knew where she was. And it was just crazy because like I used to do this shit all the time. And I never even cared about it. I didn't pay any attention to it, never talked to anybody about it or anything. And then I got older and I had a couple spiritual awakenings. And then I just started to realize like, damn, nigga, what? I was like actually powerful as a child. And I think we all need to tap into that. That's just something I wanted to say about the aura. Like, I have a huge aura and I had a very large one as a kid. And it's like, literally, like I was saying, I could see what was going on in the radius of my aura pretty much.
I kind of want to comment on the aura too. Like, okay. So one thing too, like the huge disconnect, like with people. So it's like certain, if you get into like genetically, certain people have larger auras. And that's all I'm really going to say about that. And with the whole experience that we had the past couple years, you were told to stand at a distance from each other. You know what I'm saying? And that really caused a disconnect within ourselves to an extent, because we're inside, we're disconnected from nature, we're disconnected from other like individuals on the same kind of frequency. So that's just something I wanted to say for whoever needed to hear it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you were saying, Ari. And also before that, in terms of what your grandma had told you, that is like the best way to counteract any dark energy, any heavy energy that you are coming across, to envision yourself as a ray of light and it's shooting out at the things that may try to harm you, because that's quite literally how you can protect yourself. I actually do that all the time. Like when it comes down to being around like certain energies that I like don't want to be around, I quite literally vision myself as being that source energy light, I would call it, like that golden light, white light, whatever you want to refer it to as, and it expanding from my body. And that's basically like how I do it with the thoughts. So like I kind of make like a bubble and essentially of that light around me. So that's our aura. And what the other guy was saying in terms of that story with you in Walmart, that was you experiencing unity consciousness. And unity consciousness is so fun, honestly, because it's such a flow state where it's like you're not even thinking, but everything is just doing. And to get to that point, a lot of us are born that way. Sometimes, our parents might pass down trauma and we might be a little closed off in certain aspects, but for the most part, we're born that way. And, programming teaches us how we're not one with everything. But yeah, when you truly are tapped into energy, unity consciousness is what will be your reality, because you understand your connection, but you're just able to receive information from source
Can I tap
so
onto that too?
effortlessly. Mm-hmm.
So like that's another thing too with tapping into the circadian rhythm, because everything in your body works better and works more efficiently when you're tapped into the circadian rhythm. And if you think about it, Earth is tapped in to something more advanced than we can try to get to. And then whatever that's tapped into is tapped in more. So like how you're saying everything's tapped into the one, like tap into Earth as much as you can. And that's the best way to tap in to source or to, you know, the one or whatever. Like,
Mushrooms.
yeah, I mean, yeah, there's different foods, you know what I'm saying, you can eat too to really, you know.
I definitely agree. And even like certain herbs, certain things, like these affect our consciousness, but it opens our mind up to this new state of reality.
And one thing I saw earlier too, the more sunlight you get, the more your pineal gland is able to produce, like the more melanin your body can produce, whether it be in the sun or sleeping or, you know, doing different things like that. Your pineal gland actually is like expanding more and it's feeding it directly. And that's another good way to tap into.
Yep. In terms of the sun, well, if you look at it like this, knowledge is light. Because in order for you to be enlightened, you have to be able to shed light on all the dark aspects of reality, all dark aspects of yourself, to be in tune with everything. And so to really piggyback off of what you guys were saying, unity consciousness is what our ancestors had, because they were so connected to reality, not in not the aspect of this fictitious world that we live in now, like where we have houses that box us our energy in, we have shoes, rubber soles that block us from feeling the energy of the ground that heals us. But they were truly connected with the reality where it was just strictly nature. And we come from this nature, we come from this source. So anything that separates us from that quite literally is low vibrational, because that is source, that is truly what brings us back to ourselves. So like I said, meditating outside is really great. They were saying get in the sun because it's light that's quite literally coming to your body. That's source energy, that's source knowledge coming towards you, coming through your pineal gland. If you understand chakras, the pineal gland is your third eye, which is what creates that understanding of reality, because you can have knowledge, but unapplied knowledge is nothing. But applied knowledge is wisdom. And to be able to act on that wisdom with understanding is to be able to think with your third eye, your brain, tapped into that knowledge. So being able to meditate in the sun, opening up to source light energy from the sun, this is what our ancestors did. When you look back to all the beginnings, like as far as you can go, because you can never really get to the beginning of most of these religions, most of these cultures, these practices, but you always see how they mention the sun and the importance of the sun and how they actually worship the sun, because the sun is the physical representation of light, of enlightenment.
Well, because you know, like Jesus is the Son of God. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. He even has a sun around a halo to represent that energy radiating off of him, like the sun.
Yeah, because it's like ultimately it's just the biggest sun, the one, you know what I'm saying? The biggest ball of energy in the universe. And that's what I would believe everything came from.
And that's referring to the law of vibration, the spectrum of energy, because that white light is what creates the different colors. So I noticed a couple months ago, whenever I was at my man's crib, he would have his cousins or his men over. They would always end up sitting at distance from me, And someone without spiritual knowledge might make you think it was something wrong with me, but I figured my aura just wouldn't allow them around me. Yeah, if you can like look at them and you can tell like how they are acting and it's not in alignment with you, quite literally like they can't be close to you. Something is allowing them to be in alignment with you to even be in that same room, but in terms of being like close to you, there's something preventing that. So being able to, like I said, observe but not judge is so important when it comes down to reflecting on these things, because it's like when you come with judgment, you might come with, oh, they don't fuck with me, okay, but that might not allow you to see why they're not even able to sit next to you. So just being able to observe that and see the pattern, recognize the pattern, is very important to practice. What?
I
Our
actually want
dreams.
to piggyback off of that. I can speak from just as of recently. I feel like me, CJ, and Derek have been really, really connected as of late. And it's like when you start to stare at the sun and absorb it as much as you can, anybody you're around who are doing the same things, you'll get the exact same like information on what to do next or what your body needs to be doing next. So like the reason why we wasn't doing conscious calls, because we would literally text each other, it's like, y'all not feeling it today, huh? I kind of feel like that's been the common theme. And me and Derek like, word, yeah, that's like trippy how we all feeling the same thing, like we need to take a break. You know what I mean? So we'll start to get in sync with the downloads of the planet and like you said, the circadian rhythm, because all of us are supposed to be operating within that spectrum. And the more that we do absorb that sunlight, anybody that's doing the same thing, you'll easily know if they're tapped in because they'll get the exact same information that you got. So truth be told, we're all supposed to be getting the same information, but it's all dependent on how much we're tapping in to where we're going to get the same confirmations on what to do next, because the planet's always moving in unison, we really realize it or not. So it is important for us to get as much sunlight as we can, because that's what keeps us in sync with the people that are on that type of timing. You get what I'm saying? So that's actually how you stay in alignment, by absorbing a lot of sun, because the people that are on those highest vibrations, they get a bunch of it. So pretty much you just need to have the same information they have. And the only way you can do that is by getting that sun.
Can I ask you a question too?
Yeah,
Do
what's up?
you look at the sun like with a naked eye, or do you close your eyes when you're staring at it?
Oh, I stare at it, like literally, like I'm staring
Okay,
at it
so
for
you
a
stare at
good
it, and like, how long would you say that you do that for?
I would say about 30 seconds to 45 seconds, give or take. I used to be able to do it for a really long time, like a minute and 30 seconds straight. Um, Honestly, that's a big confirmation that I kind of been slacking. But yeah, you can, when you start, you can train your eyes truthfully. So like in the beginning, my eyes were really, really sensitive to the sun. And this was right around the time of COVID, actually, when I started to just decide to submit to that. And I would stare at the sun, but with my eyes closed. So your eyes are still going to receive like the light rays coming from the sun. You always notice, like anytime you, for example, put your hand over a light bulb, right when you turn it on, your hand like turns a bright red. That's the same thing that your eyelids are doing. You're still getting the light rays through your skin. It's just not going to pierce to your cornea, which is where your crystals are actually located within your eyes that receive that actually receives and processes that light, which helps us see colors and stuff like that. So over time, just starting it off for like 15 seconds straight, then 20 seconds, then 30 seconds, like building yourself up. At some point, you'll be able to look at it 5 minutes straight without really be affected or tearing up or anything like that. Tearing up is actually a good thing. A lot of the times we need to learn how to flush out our eyes. So we obviously know like tears is the body's mechanism of cleaning itself out. So the sun will actually purify your eyes by forcing you to tear, right? So any impurities that you have in your eyes when you stare at it, it's a good thing that you're tearing up. It's not that there's anything actually bad going on from you looking at the sun. It's just that the sun's helping you purify your eyeballs, which is going to help you receive the light better.
Okay, I asked because like just like when I was younger, I used to stare at the sun a lot. But I've always noticed that when I look at the sun, it feels like my eyes are healing. And then a lot of times when I lay out in the sun, I have my eyes closed though, but I'll pay attention to where, when I first open my eyes, if I could see like any floaty, like say I looked at the sun for a second and then I close my eyes or like cover my eyes up and then I open them again. You know, you can see like a floaty if you have like something in your eye. I would just notice where I would see it at, and I would always see like a big improvement in my eyes and the clarity of things after doing it. But I wasn't sure if it was safe to look at it with a naked eye, because I stopped doing that when I was younger
I
because, you know,
suggest
mom would always say something.
I
Go ahead.
suggest if in the beginning, when it comes to practicing that, like start when the sun rises and when
Okay.
the sun sets, because it's less like it's not as strong,
Mhm.
and work your way up, you know? Like if you want to start looking at it straight on when those times are, because it'll help you like start like bracing yourself for the stronger like times when it's higher up. Because I used to do the same thing as a kid, and we've all been taught like it makes us go blind or something, or it's so bad for our eyes. But honestly, I feel like that, first of all, that's a lie. And two, like because I actually have met somebody who said like, oh, my eyes got burnt from that, like my cornea and that. But I think it has to also do with how like if you're just jumping straight into it, like staring at the sun when it's at its highest point, your eyes are going to be strained, obviously, if you have never done
Yeah,
that.
and the amount of melanin you have in your eyes as well. I
And
know
that
like
as
you're
well.
supposed to go out like earlier in the day for your skin as well. Like the
Exactly.
sun does different things at different times. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna start doing that more though. Once I go
Wow.
out in the morning, I'm
Exactly.
gonna start looking at it for real.
I actually want to piggyback off of that too. So during COVID, I didn't know no better, truth be told. But what I can say is another thing too. Imagine having like um a charger base that can only handle, let's just say 20 watts of energy flowing through it, right? But then the outlet you plug into it has 120 watts. That's typically gonna first force that charger base to short circuit and it'll start to burn, right? So that's the same thing that's going on when we're actually staring at the sun and our body's not able to maintain the frequency or the quote unquote energy the sun is giving to us. So an important thing to actually channel that, we have to do breath work while we're actually looking at the sun. So like what actually helped me not have adverse effects during COVID from staring at the sun was doing my breath work, because I was doing it like I started off at 12 noon at the highest point of the sun. I didn't know any better. That just so happened to be the time I was going outside every day. But that breath work really, really helps you channel the flow and the circuit, because your body is an outlet, right? So it is a conductor of energy, right? So we're receiving from the sun, it'll help us actually receive the downloads and process the frequency of the sun at that given time. So I would say, just from what I've experienced, it really doesn't matter when you're staring at the sun. It just matters what you're deciding to do while you're staring at it. So if you're not really focused on breath work, it is highly advised to do it during sunrise and sunset, because the frequencies are just slightly lower. They're more manageable to the naked eye for anybody that really doesn't know how to control their breath work consciously, right? But if you feel like you're really, really in control of your breath work and this is something you've been practicing for a long time, I would say you could try it, on shorter periods, obviously during like noon, 2 o'clock at the highest points, because that energy, like the more energy you're getting, the better, if you know how to work with it, if that makes sense. So the breath work is you learning how to work with that energy and help it flow through your body.
Another thing too, in terms of like what he was saying, it's also a consciousness thing, because like we were saying, you might have been taught that. So if you're taught that it's not good for your eyes and it will burn your eyes, and you believe that and you're trying this, it's going to manifest that. And if it doesn't, it's because you chose to keep an open mind. But always keep an open mind, always keep that those negative thoughts that are trying to create a negative reality when you're trying to do these things, subdue, try to like not even feed into them, counteract them with positive things. And also another thing too, if you have lighter eyes, that's when I would really suggest too to try to go like out when the sun is lower, because there's less melanin in there. So I know people with blue eyes, like they have a problem with the sun, being out because it like hurts them. So, because melanin is a form of protection. So, yeah. And in terms of the breathing aspect, when you understand how energy flows through your body, you're able to transmute things that might get stuck and make you short circuit. So, our bodies are basically surrounded by vortexes like this. Everything is surrounded by a vortex like this, essentially. This is what the earth is surrounded by. This is what atoms are surrounded by. This is what everything is. It's what the aura truly is. It's radiating off of us like this energy right here. So we have the North Pole or the South Pole, whatever side it's on. And it's literally just funneling and circling around us like this. So understanding when you are looking at the sun and this is something that you may have not done or you're feeling a challenge and you are trying to breathe through it, you're helping that energy flow better. That energy flow better from the top to the bottom. So you're able to now be in alignment where the consciousness, where it doesn't harm you. Are dreams a manifestation of energy? Do they go hand in hand with the law of correspondence with what you send comes back? So yes, dreams are a manifestation of energy. I look at it this way, and many other ascended masters believe this as well, where first of all, we are multidimensional beings. So when you really sit down and look at what it is to be a multidimensional being, well, what is a dimension? A dimension is a state of being, but it's also like on a frequency level. So there's 1 dimension, 2 dimensions, 3 dimensions, 4 dimensions, 5 dimensions. I have it on the other chart, but let me see. These are all different dimensions of experience, of existing. So being on a lower dimension, oftentimes you might have heard that we've been born into our lower dimension, into a lower dimension, the 3rd dimension, into our lower chakras. So what this really means is dimension, when you understand it's a frequency, a way of thinking, a way of being, a way of reality, you are able to understand, okay, the next dimension is a different sense of that. It's a different experience of that. So when you're experiencing these dimensions, you're truly experiencing consciousness at a specific level. So for you to even remember a dream, understand when you are dreaming, that's just a different state of consciousness, but it's just a different state of dimension. It's just a different dimension. It's not like it's like some mystical thing that never really happened. It did happen. Your brain quite literally experienced that in the form of consciousness. It was aware of it. And so what I would say is that that does tie into the law of correspondence, because it's the dreams are reflecting what's going on in your waking state, because you're still embodying a specific energy when you're in a dream. That specific energy that you were awake, you're still embodying that when you're asleep.
I want to ask you this too about that. So do you feel like you can go somewhere in your dreams? Because the way that you just worded it, I'm wondering if you would believe that, or like you would think the same as that.
I believe in astral projection, in terms of being aware. Now there's levels of consciousness, like I said. So some people, like, they'll just go through the dream and the dream is happening to them. But then there's also a state of when you are aware that you're in the dream, and
that's usually
now you're able to go wherever.
I feel like a lot of times, like, depending on how the dream goes, it could be like an entity that you have like surrounding you, you know, like coercing the dream for you, so that way you'll invoke a certain emotion in your dream and they can feed off of it. So I don't know.
I definitely agree.
Okay.
In terms of the entity thing, because I've actually personally like experienced that. But when I was experiencing those things where they were like that was happening to me, I was operating strictly off of a lower vibration of frequency of thought. So I was in that lower state of lust, grief, apathy, guilt, shame, for that to even like manifest and be able to manipulate me, because I wasn't aware. So these things, like I said, they're always going to be around because this is reflecting what you're giving out. So in the beginning, it's hard to protect yourself when you don't know these things. But as you become more conscious, you're able to now deflect these things and be like a Neo. Yeah. In terms of Yakai explaining that. And also, like, I love to like listen to people and what they're saying, but I always do my own research too, so I can like understand like maybe the science behind it and stuff like that, and have my own facts to state, because knowledge is just a beautiful thing to have. And like it's great to like hear somebody say it, but because you can tell if a person's really like telling the truth or not, because you can hear it in their voice. If you're really in tune, if you're starting to get in tune, you can hear the spirit, the soul coming from them, like, nah, this is the truth, this is their truth. So for sure, watch the lesson. General Iroh teaches Zuko on the energy flow with lightning and learning from other elements or spiritual practices. Breathwork helps you bend different types of, for example, earth, wind, fire, and water. So yeah, the Avatar, we've been watching the Avatar lately just to like see, like, because we weren't conscious when we first started watching it, but now we're there. So just rewatching these things, it's interesting to see like how these things, like some of these cartoons be speaking facts, and definitely the Avatar is really important, like when it comes down to like understanding how we are as a being. Like it's like that, quite literally. Like they say one avatar, it's one avatar, like one savior, but we're all avatars. And if you've ever heard of like the belief system of like Hinduism, and how basically we are the idea of reincarnation, we're basically like continuously living life just through different bodies. But the only reason why we don't like remember that is because we're not conscious, and when we don't die conscious knowing that. So it's like a lot of these ancient spiritual practices, they're talking about the same thing. It's just a different language, maybe they're saying, or a different way to say it. But yeah, energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be transferred. It can only be transmuted into something else. So understanding that your soul will never die. It is eternal. It comes from the one infinite source, the original soul. So it's like the goal for these religions was to help people become enlightened, become one with that source, and essentially experience that bliss and that knowing, that which is peace and happiness, because you're an enlightened being. So like I said earlier, love is an elevation of understanding. So when you have the understanding, you are no longer in a state of confusion, which brings peace. Peace is satisfaction from your knowledge and wisdom applied, and as a result, you become happy. This is what all these things have been trying to get us to do, but we've been so caught up as a society. Oh, my way of getting to source is better than yours. Not realizing we're on this divine path of growth and evolution, and we shouldn't judge each other for how we choose to get to it. As long as we get to it, that's all that should matter, And if my way helps you, but or somebody else has a different way and that helps somebody else, so be it. Maybe my way of something can help you in one aspect, but somebody else's way of helping you can help you in a different aspect, And that's kind of how I look at being a spiritual being. For me, it's like I personally like to look at all perspectives of spirituality, religion, culture, because I understand like they're all saying something, and it's like, to me, it seems like they're saying the same thing. They just have maybe slightly different practices, or practices that aren't even different, but because they're called different names, different languages, people think they're so different. And in terms of bending different energy types, for example, like earth, wind, and fire, when you understand, like I said, unity consciousness and how you're connected to everything, right? there will be a point where you can quite literally be one with these elements and learn how to use the energy of these elements. Being able to flow like water through certain situations, maybe, or knowing how to use the energy of water when it comes down to setting an intention for, like, for example, there's this experiment on water crystals and how they froze based off of how this scientist spoke to them. So he was speaking negative affirmations to this one cup and positive affirmations to these other cups, right? And he chose to freeze them. And then he took pictures of how they froze in the crystallization of the water crystals. And the crystallization of the negative water crystals were not anything like how the ones with the positive affirmations were manifesting. They were actually manifesting in a way where it was like not in alignment with like sacred geometry. It was like sacred geometry, but it wasn't like perfect patterns and stuff like that. Because when you like look at nature, it's always showing you patterns of sacred geometry where it's in some type of alignment. Sometimes it might look chaotic, but it's still all divine like made. So basically the negative affirmations made it all like wonky, and the positive affirmations made it kind of like look like these spirals right here and like certain other crystallizations. Like, it was really interesting to see. But I definitely like advise you guys to look up like how, you know, that experiment. I could send it in the chat later on in the Discord. But yeah, like, and if you understand our body is made up of water as well, and you understand how that like that vibration affects that water, you can understand how that vibration would affect the water within you. And in terms of wind and fire and water, so I mean earth, wind, for example, when I think of wind, I always think of change. So if you've ever heard of the butterfly effect, basically the concept is the wings of a butterfly cause a tornado somewhere else in the world. And what this is really is talking about is basically like how, or the domino effect, for example, it's the same thing, how one little minute thing caused a sequence of events to cause a bigger thing to happen. So it's understanding like when wind may be coming by, what is that telling you in that moment? Because sometimes you might be talking about something or thinking about that thing, and the wind is telling you maybe you have to change a direction or something. And honestly, it comes down to just like educating yourself on ancestral knowledge of what they believe and trying to see what you truly align with, what feels right for you. Because for me, I always go back to my ancestral knowledge. I always go back to what did my ancestors think about this. So for example, birds are a very significant sign for me. And for women, I know also like, you know, it doesn't matter, like men as well, but you know, birds for me, like when I see it in that moment and I know like it depends how many birds, maybe it could be like a number, like understanding numerology, understanding how all these things are literal signs is very important as well. And in terms of like working with earth, like crystals, for example, that's to be working with earth. It's understanding that the earth is maintaining a specific vibration. So if that's the case, when you're putting down this crystal, maybe in your room, in this specific corner, in this specific direction, to maintain this frequency of the intention you set it for, you're now working with the earth element to maintain that and protect you from that, or create that energy in your space. Or fire. So water can be purification, but fire can also be purification if you think about it. Wind can be purification as well. But when I think of fire, I think of like that, for example, enlightenment, that light that comes from our soul, our aura. So if I'm using a candle, I'm bringing that light energy to whatever I put it for, you know, and I'm bringing that manifestation into reality, because light in the beginning was the word, but light means vibration to me. So that's creating that physical representation of that thought. And you can go deeper into it in terms of bending, but that comes down to really getting in tune with yourself, and that's unity consciousness, like we were talking about earlier, being able to, for example, like he said, when his grandma was ready to leave, he knew when he had to go. But essentially, like, being able to bend something and also be in tune with something, they go hand in hand. You got to be in tune with the energy in order for you to even manipulate the energy. So when it comes down to wanting to go deeper into that, you got to get more in tune with yourself. Okay, are there any other questions?
I think today was elite. I think
Peace.
today was a good welcome back.
Yeah.
You feel me? But if y'all got some value today, man, drop a 3 in the chat box. 3's in the chat box for Nicolette. We appreciate you, Nicolette, for getting in tune with us again and giving value to everybody. Definitely appreciate everybody for getting in tune, taking the time out to learn something new, because at the end of the day, you guys could have been doing anything at this time, but you guys hopped on here to get some type of information, to get some type of value, and to learn something new, or to give value as well. But with that being said, make sure you guys definitely show love, on Nicolette's Instagram. I'll go ahead and pull everything up for you here. 1 second. Make sure you guys definitely show some love for her. All right, make sure you guys definitely connect with her on Instagram, show some love. Follow her pages, tag her if you got some value today, tag her on, whatever you got, something that, resonated with you, something that hit, definitely make sure you guys tag her. And as well, make sure you guys are definitely connected with the MBW page as well. Very important. We appreciate when you guys show love. We appreciate you guys getting in tune. So definitely get in tune with us here as well. Show love on the page, repost the content, whatever it might be. And with that being said, without further ado, I'm gonna let you guys do your thing. Make sure you guys take care of yourselves. The more y'all take care of yourselves, y'all taking care of me, because we are one. I'm gonna see you guys from the top or at the top. The only time we ever look down is to help bring you guys up. And if you guys are looking for us, you can find us at the beach, or you can find us at the bank. Let's get it.